What up, y'all? Your boy Blow Up One here.
Tonight, the FBI has requested our cooperation on a matter of extreme importance. They hope that someone watching has vital information about a man suspected of taking part in the bombing of the World Trade Center. He is the newest addition, the FBI's 10 most wanted. Please, watch closely. By now, we are all familiar with the graphic images and horrifying details. On February 26, 1993, explosion beneath New York's Trade Center complex killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000. Thus far, 4 men have been arrested and indicted in connection with the bombing, and a 5th has been charged with obstruction of justice. And another suspect, thought to be a major participant, has so far eluded capture. He is 25-year-old Ramzi Ahmed Youssef, who used an Iraq passport to enter the U.S. in September of 1992, seeking political asylum. Authorities believe Youssef may have been the roommate of the first suspect arrested, Mohammed Salameh.
Ramzi Ahmed Youssef was added to the top 10 list because he'd been charged by a New York grand jury with participating in the bombing of the World Trade Center on February 26th of this year. He's 6 feet tall.
What up, one viewer?
Pounds, brown hair, brown eyes, sometimes known to wear a beard. Wherever he is located, he should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. It's really critical to bringing him to justice for his participation in this crime for 2 reasons. One, terrible nature of the crime, what it represents to American society, the first major terrorist offensive here in this country in many, many years. And secondly, because he is a key part of this conspiracy, and we would like to bring all the co-conspirators to justice.
Why ain't they letting me watch Cops?
Both buildings and appliances can make you use too much of even the most efficient thing. So, while you're already saving money by using gas, you could be saving even more. At Washington Gas, right here for the deal. Visit our energy efficiency hub today. Tips, tools, rebates, and more. Consider the subjects government. Both buildings and appliances can make you use too much of even the most efficient thing. So, while you're already saving money by using gas, you could be saving even more. Let us help you get your houses.
I got a little fro going on.
At Washington Gas, right here for the deal. Visit our energy efficiency hub today for tips, tools, appliances can make you use too much of the most efficient thing. So, while you're already saving money by using gas, you could be saving even more. Let us help you get your houses hyper. It's a Metro card in a beat balloon. At Washington Gas, right here for the deal. Visit our energy efficiency hub today. Rebates and more. Incentive availability subject to government approval. Both buildings and appliances can make you use too much of even the most efficient thing. So, while you're already saving money by using gas, you could be saving even more. Let us help you get your houses hyper. It's a Metro card in a beat balloon. At Washington Gas, right here for the deal. Visit our energy efficiency hub today for tips and more. Thank you for joining us. And please join us next time for another edition of Unsolved Mysteries.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you're about to see is not a news broadcast.
In San Francisco, the murder of a wealthy businessman has baffled police for over a year. When the investigation stalled, the lead detective tried a novel approach. He opened his case files to a handful of volunteer sleuths enrolled in a course called Murder 101. Tonight you'll see whether the students came up with new clues that might actually help solve the case. In Rhode Island, a fiery car crash leaves a young mother paralyzed and unconscious. Now she needs your help to find the two anonymous heroes who saved her life. In 1984, 7-year-old Gary Grant Jr., the son of a police officer, was found murdered in Atlantic City, New Jersey. In crime, the prime suspect was just a boy himself who confessed to the crime and then recanted. Join me tonight. You may be able to help solve the mystery.
Oh, shit.
San Francisco, California, December 1993. A prosperous businessman who supplied noodles to dozens of Chinatown restaurants is stabbed to death. Case file number 931-86131. Current status, unsolved. The Chinatown case has thousands of unsolved murders that plague police departments across the country. With no immediate solution in sight, the detective in charge tried an unconventional approach. He opened his case files to a college class called Murder We Solved, created by a woman named Brooke Stewart. The class had already helped close one case, the slaying of a taxi driver in 1992. Tonight we invite you to join another group of students as they try to unravel the peculiar case, the murdered Chinatown businessman.
If you ever thought that you would be sitting here today solving an actual murder?
When Brooke Stewart's class met in December of 1994, the would-be detectives included a ballet teacher, a housewife, and several waiters. San Francisco Police Inspector Peter Sanders briefed the students on the case.
Good morning. So, you want to be homicide case, I've been working on this case now almost a year. And certainly I have believed that once you became stymied, you could take the case and look at it from an entirely different angle, open it up and start all over again. And the class gave me an opportunity to do that. Let me introduce you to your victim.
Jim Fang was a 42-year-old businessman, owner of two.
I gotta go get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Jim Fang was stabbed. Inspector Sanders was called to the scene around 1:30 a.m. The rear window of Mr. Fang's van was broken. The van's interior ransacked. No fingerprints were found, but the murder weapon had been left behind.
night turned out to be a regular, cheap kitchen steak knife. One that you would pay 99 cents for at the 99-cent store. And it was very worn, as if it had been washed 100 times or more.
Authorities also recovered this BB gun. However, they weren't certain it had been used in the assault until they interviewed the only witness to the crime. The evening of the murder, Jin Fang had offered a ride home to one of his supervisors, Mrs. Yi Sung.
Shortly after midnight, they exited the building, left, and went outside, just outside, and got into Mr. Fang's van. The window was broken out, and Mr. Fang did not notice that his window was broken. He and his passenger entered the van, and he drove about 100 feet. According to Mrs. He, the two young men spoke in fluent Cantonese. They demanded the money. Where is the money? The man with the gun struck Mrs. Yi along the side of the head with the gun, demanding that she not turn around nor look.
Mrs. Yi said the terrifying episode lasted more than half an hour, far longer than most robberies. During that time, the two men ripped apart the van's interior, repeating over and over their demand for the money. The money. The killer struck with brutal accuracy. A single plunge of the knife sliced directly into Mr. Fang's heart.
Even the stabber is very lucky to hit such a vital spot, or he is very experienced in knowing where the vital spot is.
Before fleeing, the assailants threatened to kill Mrs. Yi if she called for help.
She stayed there about 2 hours, afraid to move because of the threat. She didn't hear a car leave, and then she didn't hear anyone running. We're not open for questions. Just before I go,
The case review provoked a number of insightful questions.
One of the things that keeps bothering me is the murder weapon. It's a cheesy little kitchen knife that's all worn out. And if I was gonna go get serious with somebody, I wouldn't take a beat up old kitchen knife. Have you checked to see if that kind of cheap knife that was used is used at any of the restaurants where you see?
And Mrs. Yi kept saying, they kept asking where the money is.
right.
They were looking for a large quantity of money. They thought he had a large amount of money.
What do your personal and business bank records show? Any recent large money that went in and out that might be what the question, where is the money referred to?
That's an excellent question, and I tell you why.
Inspector Sanders told the class what he knew about Mr. Fang's daily activities.
Hello, Lieutenant High.
At times accompanied by his wife, Fang had personally collected money from his customers. A typical day would net up to $1,000 in cash.
$300.
Good price, best price in the city.
Every time you clean your front doors up, every $300.
I have a hard time with the thought that Mr. Fang made the routes himself, collecting the receipts and collecting the money. If there wasn't something else involved for him doing this as a successful businessman, why wouldn't he have somebody else do it? Well, that's a good question. But he routinely did it himself. Now, that thought has crossed my mind. Maybe he's frugal. Is it that he is frugal? Or is it that there is something else going on? That's what
In fact, there was a dimension. 3 weeks after the slaying, Sanders received a call from a mysterious tipster.
Who's that? Oh, okay. I'm curious. Okay. The informant advised that I should look into the gambling angle with Mr. Fang. That Mr. Fang was, in fact, an avid gambler. and had connections in the Chinese community for gambling, and that was likely the motive for his murder rather than petty robbery.
If the coroner was to be believed, Jim Fang had been a key figure in the shadowy world of illegal gambling, both as a bettor and as a bookmaker.
Only put $20,000 on the Dallas desk. What time for you people on last week? I know that. I'm good for it. You know.
The informant claimed that on the day of his death, Mr. Fang had collected an eye-opening $25,000 in cash.
That 25,000. How do you know that?
It was an extremely promising lead. However, none of the information could be corroborated, and Sanders found himself back at square one. By the end of the class, each student had heard the baffling mix of evidence, leads, and rumors in the case of Jim Fang, and each student came back with a theory.
My scenario of the thing was that somebody that on his route, he got a bet with, he won the money from the person on the route. The person on the route was very ticked off that he lost the money, sent somebody out there to get the money back, and in the process, killed him.
I think maybe somebody overheard something. It seems like maybe a crime of opportunity, or possibly it could have been planned and made to look like a robbery.
I think there may be a link with Mrs. Yee because we don't have as much information from her. So it looks to me like with them moving their arms and things around to kill him in the front, that she would have been able to identify something more about them.
I think what's real exciting for me with this class is it was a completely unique idea. It's never been tried anywhere to my knowledge, and it's actually become successful. We're finding that this class is actually coming up with ideas, with leads that are helping to facilitate the investigation.
The students were given a week to submit a written analysis. Some, like Nick Downey, took their investigation to the streets. Another student, Kara Llewellyn, questioned a friend of hers who had lived in Chinatown for many years. Kara and Nick later went to police headquarters to try out their theories on Inspector Sanders.
I was thinking that this was more of an amateurish job. I sort of think it's some gang wannabes from new immigrants to the country. It doesn't seem to fit to me the traditional sort of signature, if you will, of the Chinese gangs in China. Well, what about your dad?
Kara's friend had told her about a different network of gangs that operated within the Chinese community.
The Vietnamese gangs are very different. They're kind of, they have the Chinese.
Kara learned that many Vietnamese immigrants are well versed in Cantonese, and some of the newcomers might be eager to prove themselves to longtime gang members.
Hello, Tantai.
Hello, how are you? Okay, maybe some young wannabes who bought this guy his money. They noticed that he has jewelry. He's kind of a high roller by the clothes that he wears, and that they thought he would be a good mark.
Nick Downey, a legal scenario that was totally at odds with Kara's.
I think Mr. Fang's assailants knew Mr. Fang, knew his routine. I think Mr. Fang was into gambling on a very high level. I think it was one of the fun things he liked to do. They overheard Mr. Fang either taking or making a large bet. They knew that he was going to collect a large sum of money. They expected that he had that money that day. And they were disappointed and surprised when they found out that there was nothing in the van. He didn't have it on him. And I don't think they killed Mr. Fang deliberately. Definitely killed him.
So you feel that the robbers expected to find more money than they actually found on Mr. Fang's person. Talking to Kara and Nick and the other students too is very stimulating. It caused me to think and rethink some ideas that I had entertained during the course of the last year that I've been working on this case.
So which scenario lies at the heart of Jim Fang's murder? Soon after a briefing with students, Inspector Sanders is contacted by a second anonymous informant who argued that the murder was tied to illicit betting. Inspector Sanders believes the tip to be credible, but only time and further investigation will enable the police to close in on the elusive killers, Jim Fang. Next, an accident victim is searching for the two men who saved her life.
I'm a nutritionist and I've always felt
Good morning, two people.
That's why again, be free at time. I bill credit safely with my awesome new time card. And with direct deposit, I get 1.5% cash back on my purchases. Plus, I can get up to $500 of my pay when I stay, and 3.5% APY on my savings. My credit is close to $700, and my finances are in great shape. Start banking fee-free at time. Number one most loved thing.
Plenty of politicians talk a good game. Raja delivers. For the community I represent and every community, Raja never stops fighting for people left behind. I've seen him take on some of the most powerful people to hold them accountable, to lower our costs, to protect our rights. Right now, people are angry and they're scared. We've never needed someone like Raja in the Senate more. No one fights harder. No one.
I'm Radha Krishnamurthy, and I agree with this message.
This is Colleen Frangione. She's 41 years old, the mother of two grown sons. She has been paralyzed since 1978. Colleen is a very special woman with a very simple message.
I didn't. My slogan, my motto.
Over the last 15 years, Colleen has spoken to more than 10,000 high school and junior high school students. Working in both Rhode Island and Florida, she has erected billboards and distributed pamphlets in a tireless one-woman crusade. Colleen Frangione has earned high praise for her efforts from several citizens groups. But seatbelt safety is not her only mission. Colleen is also searching for two heroes, the men who saved her life. On the night she was paralyzed, they snatched her from a burning car and from certain death. Colleen herself remembers nothing. In 1978, Colleen was 26 years old, recently divorced, and struggling to support two young sons. On September 23rd of that year, Colleen drove home from a merry night out, dancing at the Naval Officers Club in Newport, Rhode Island. Just before 1 a.m., Colleen was turning on a Rogers Road. She came to a full stop, but tragically, a crowd of teenagers behind her did not.
The hit of that second car just twisted me beyond the normal range. And that twist was so forceful that it broke two lower vertebrae and severed my spinal cord. And I'm glad I don't remember it.
Colleen lay unconscious as flames engulfed her car. Patty and Joe Trifero, who lived across the street, rushed to help.
were spreading really fast. The back of the car was on fire, the back seat was on fire, and as we were trying to pull open the doors, they wouldn't open because of the crash. They were jammed, and I heard in the background, "Get a crowbar."
I glanced over to my right, and there were two men standing there. My wife and I ran to one of the rallies to a crowbar. The time we were going
shit.
either one or both of them standing there pulled Colleen from the car and brought her up onto the sidewalk. They were the only two I felt that were physically able to have gotten her out of the car at that point. By now, a third rescuer had appeared. She apparently took charge of the situation. When we returned, there was a woman there, must have had some type of nursing background that said that she was in shock. We had freedom. And shortly after that, the entire car was in flames. Amazingly, no one else was seriously injured. But during the intense effort to put out the fire, both of the men who had been safe vanished. For 10 days, Colleen hovered between life and death. She awoke to the terrifying reality that she was paralyzed from the waist down.
Once I had to deal with not being able to walk. I was hurt. It was like I was heartbroken. That was my first feeling inside. And then it went from that to how am I going to do everything that I never even thought about. Sitting up, putting a shoe on, getting dressed.
But Colleen's spirit was indomitable. She was discharged from the hospital after 4 months. Colleen went on to raise her 2 sons as a single parent, and in 1985 she married again. Yet not a day goes by that Colleen doesn't think about the accident. The 2 men saved her life.
How lucky only to be paralyzed. And now I'm saving lives because they pulled me from the car. I just believe we're only to meet. I would have been killed if it wasn't for you guys. And I want to thank you both. Or just one of you, whichever one. So even if you could just give me a call, I would really appreciate it.
When Colleen's appeal aired, luck was with her. Both men called her phones. Their names are Ray Myers and Mike Kane. Well, they both live in the Providence, Rhode Island area. They had seen each other only once in the aftermath of Colleen's accident. Colleen was thrilled to learn the rescuers had been found after more than 15 years.
What Unsolved Mysteries did was the tip lady called me, told me, that she had heard from one of them and gave me his number because, of course, they didn't want to give out my number. So I called him and said who I was, and it was just so nice. In fact, we talked so long that night, my husband fell asleep. We were in bed, and my husband fell sound asleep while he and I were just talking about. And, he was telling me things that I had no idea.
On December 27th, 1993, Colleen finally was able to meet her heroes in person. Ray Myers was the first to arrive.
I was in shock. Couldn't believe it was me. I mean, I knew it was me, but it's like, it's incredible. That's what I feel about this whole thing. I think it's incredible.
I try to imagine what it looks like, and I can't do that when I get
I'm surprised. Why 15 years later? Why? But when she said she wanted to thank the people, after I spoke to her on the phone, it was like, this lady was really sincere.
What up?
And that's what she wanted. She wanted to thank us.
Is that Billy Boba's
I feel the whole stuff, like, it's all completely, all the pieces of the puzzle are all put together. And it's a real peaceful feeling inside. That's, to me, in fact, how many times.
Yeah, okay, I recognize the name. I remember you.
To me, the guardian angels, and this is how I feel.
When we return, the police officer's painful search for answers in the murder of his own 7-year-old son.
Your mental health is better.
Not a whole lot, just chilling, watching Unsolved Mysteries.
I asked my doctor about treating my TB with Ingrezza.
Ingrezza. Has ICE been knocking on your door? No, they have not.
Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Call your doctor. Become depressed, have sudden behavior, mood changes, or suicidal thoughts. Don't take Ingrezza if allergic. Serious side effects may include allergic reactions like sudden, potentially fatal swelling and hives, sleepiness, the most common side effect, and heart rhythm problems. Know how Ingrezza affects you before operating the car or dangerous machinery. Report fever, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these might be life-threatening. Shaking, stiffness, drooling, and trouble with moving or balance may occur.
Taking control starts with asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
Turbo sings, water cleans, racing all the way. Oh, what fun it is to drive when an Audi leads the way. What fun it is to drive along in an Audi every day.
Lease a new 2025 Audi A5 Premium for $499 a month during the season of Audi.
Thursday, January 12th, 1984, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Why would ICE be knocking on my door?
It was a rare midweek holiday for 7-year-old Gary Grant Jr. There was no school because of a teachers' conference. Gary lived with his mother, May. She and Gary's father, an Atlantic City police detective, had been separated for nearly a year.
After breakfast, are you going to go out with your friends? Why not? I'm for this afternoon at 2:30. Wow, sounds important. What kind of appointment is it?
I was asking him too, and he said it was a secret. So I thought, it's silly. He's a little boy. Something to do maybe with his little girlfriend around the corner or something. So I kind of left it at that. And he wanted to go out and play, so he got dressed and he went out to play.
Around noon, Gary left home. He said he would be back by 4 p.m. before it got dark.
It got to be like 4:30, and he still hadn't showed up for dinner. He liked his dinner, this. And he still hadn't showed up, so I started getting worried. And I went down to two girls that Gary played with. They were friends of his. And asked them if they had seen Gary.
No, I'm just looking for Gary. Well, he was here in the afternoon. He left around 4:30 to go home. Okay, well, if you see him, please tell Gary to come home. Okay, Sabrina, I'll tell him. Thanks. Bye.
When another 2 hours passed with no sign of Gary, May telephoned her husband.
I searched until well after midnight, probably around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I walked around. As a matter of fact, I called out from work that night. I was due doing the work at midnight. And I called my sergeant and advised him that I wouldn't be coming in.
By the next morning, Friday, the Atlantic City Police Department was engaged in an all-out search. Regulations prevented Detective Grant from taking part in the official investigation, but as a father, he was unwilling to stand by and do nothing.
I started searching every possible place I could think of. I started searching abandoned houses. I started searching underneath the boardwalk. I started searching arcades and questioning people who were working in the arcades. There was a couple people that worked in one of the arcades who said that they had seen him on Friday, early on Friday. So I'm thinking, well, then he's still somewhere around on the streets. By Friday night, it started getting dark again, and still no signs or no word of Gary. I started then looking up in alleyways and trash cans and dumpsters. The streets could be pretty mean now, for an adult, let alone for a 7-year-old child. And by that time, I was fearing the worst.
At 3:30 the next afternoon, the body of Gary Grant Jr. was found in a vacant, weed-infested lot, less than 2 blocks from his home. He had been bludgeoned to death. Nearby lay a short length of heavy pipe, probably the murder weapon. The police immediately imposed a radio silence until the boy's family could be notified. At virtually that same moment, Detective Grant, exhausted and on the verge of collapse, happened upon the scene.
I really didn't know what was going on, but I got a knot in my stomach, and then something just told me that it's a very good possibility that they found Gary.
It's like it's a radio call. No, so the phone calls want to see what's happening. What'd you find out? Driving around for 3 days. No sleep. Looking for my stuff. I want to know something. Sure, you found your stuff. It's good. I want to see my stuff.
I didn't want to believe that it was him. In my mind, I knew that they would. I mean, why would they lie to me about something like that? But at the same time, being a father, you don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe that your kid is lying back there somewhere, and he's never going to get up again.
When they told me that Gary was dead, I just went totally numb, my whole body. I didn't want to believe it. I just can't imagine why someone would do that to a 7-year-old boy. Any 7-year-old boy.
The investigation began like all others, with detectives tracing the victim's final hours and talking to those who knew him best.
Do you know Gary Grant?
Sure, he lived around here, over in water.
When was the last time you saw him?
A couple days ago.
It would be Thursday. Where was that?
He was down by the junior high.
Who was he with?
He was with Boo.
Would that be Boo Mason?
Carl Mason, nicknamed Boo, was a
Drinky today? No, today I am 12 days sober.
Though Boo was 5 years older than Gary, he was smaller.
I'm trying to stay sober for as long as
The
possible.
two boys were good friends. And often played
I was planning on relapsing in April, but people talked me out of it, and I want to keep on staying sober.
Did you know this Gary Grant here?
Sure, I knew Gary.
When did you last see him?
Wednesday, after school.
What did you two do?
We were at the park. Over on practice.
You sure you didn't see him on Thursday? You sure it was Wednesday?
Yep, staying sober.
Who said he hadn't been with Gary? But detectives canvassing the neighborhood kept coming back with stories that he had in fact been with Gary. So they didn't know what to do. There was this conflict. Boo seemed like such a harmless character. He was vegetatively retarded. He was known as a scaredy cat in the neighborhood, but they just couldn't reconcile the conflict.
They're like, we like to ask you some questions that I came outside.
Carl Mason is now 21 years old.
Have I seen Garrett all today? I said, no, I seen him the day before, and that was it. The neighbors. I said, okay, and they were asking me some other questions, but I don't remember. Then later on that night, they came back and they took me.
At midnight on Saturday, Boo, accompanied by his grandmother, was driven to police headquarters. Once there, Boo was separated from his grandmother and led into a small room.
Look, just tell us the truth and we can all go home. What happened when you and Gary left the school gym?
We went to the park over in Texas, but that was on Wednesday.
What did you do at the park?
We played on the swings.
Wait, those swings were taken down for cleaning last week.
I didn't see Gary on Thursday. He didn't show up.
In questioning Bo, his stories were inconsistent. And the detectives wrestled around with it until finally around 3 o'clock.
I gotta take a piss. I'll be right back.
Acknowledged being with the victim at the crime scene. And that he in fact hit him with the pipe.
I didn't know that, but he's still laughing.
This was at the playground on Thursday.
I didn't see him on Thursday.
And what did you do after you?
My stepdad's in the bathroom.
Pick it up, so I just left.
He was telling police what they felt were details that only the killer could have known. And
My Moo Kitty wants out of my room.
because they realized that Boo was the suspect.
But everybody knew what happened. So that day they found the weapon. There was all different stories.
We're bringing your grandma in. It'll just be another minute.
After 3 grueling hours, police believed they had an admission of guilt.
What we did is have your confession typed up. We need you to read it and sign it. If you or the grandma.
A confession was drawn up based on the interrogation. Boo signed the document, even as he was insisting he had not murdered his friend.
And you told us the truth now.
Yes, but I didn't do it.
Boo Mason was charged with murder, remanded to a juvenile detention center.
I was not with Gary Green the day when he was missing. And I did not have anything to do with his murder. The one trial said that if you admit that you did it, we'll let you go home. So me at the age of 12, I was so tired, I said, if you say so, but I didn't. And then the next thing I know, I wanted up and home.
Do you live in Atlantic City?
Yes.
On Sunday, January 15th, Boo was given a polygraph exam. The results were inconclusive. 3 days later, a second test was administered.
Did you hurt Gary Grant?
No.
In both the first and second lie detector tests, it was determined that Boo had answered truthfully when he said that he did not kill Gary Grant.
Did you see Gary Grant get killed?
No.
There was some doubt as to whether he had been at the scene, however.
Now told the entire truth about Gary Grant's murder.
Yes.
I feel that he very easily could have been intimidated by the person who did it or who was there when it was done, could have told him that, hey, if you say anything to anybody, you're next.
I have completed 3.5 days of testimony.
A month after Boo Mason was arrested, a hearing was held to determine whether his confession was admissible in court.
This court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that any of the statements made by the juvenile were voluntary statements.
The charges against Boo Mason were dropped. Police never came up with another viable suspect. But 2 years later, it became obvious that some had not forgotten Gary Grant Jr. At approximately 3 a.m. on January 4th, 1986, a vandal painted a chilling message at the side of an Atlantic City patrol car. Gary Grant's dead. I am living. Another will die on the 1/12/86 if all goes right. January 12th would have been the second anniversary of Gary.
I have one of my medications already for pickup.
I was called my police radio to come over and pick up.
I need to raise money for medications and my checking fee. If anyone could help, it'd be greatly appreciated.
However, as far as ever finding out who did that, no one knows. We never found that out.
A few weeks later, a second cryptic message was flashed on the cell phone. Gary Grant Jr. lives. I still kill him. Son of a pig officer. Payback is a MF. This second message led to speculation that Gary had been murdered as retribution, possibly for his father.
But that's what has gone through my mind 1,000 million times, and but there's not one thing that stands out that I could think of, because I've never had anybody look at me in the face and say to me, "I'm going to get even with you for this."
9 years have passed since Gary Grant Jr. was murdered. His father is still looking for information, still passing out flack, and still barred while officially working on the case.
Somebody knows something. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just not possible something like that could happen without somebody seeing or hearing something, or even within the last 9 years, somebody saying something to somebody about it.
I would like to see the person or persons who are out there and they know who they are to come forward. So I could have a little piece to it in my mind, in my heart.
Your mental health is better, but having uncontrollable body movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia, can feel embarrassing.
Let me see if my stepdad's out of the bathroom yet.
Ingrezza. #1 prescribed Ingrezza reduced TD movements by greater than 10 times, with most seeing a response as early as 2 weeks. And you can keep taking most mental health meds.
Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden behavior, mood changes, or suicidal thoughts. Don't take Ingrezza if allergic. Serious side effects may include allergic reactions like sudden, potentially fatal swelling and hives, sleepiness, the most common side effect, and heart rhythm problems. Know how Ingrezza affects you before operating a car or dangerous machinery. Report fever, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these might be life-threatening. Shaking, stiffness, drooling, and trouble with moving or balance may occur.
Taking control starts with asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. By honoring your sacred vocation in technology, you will impact your family, your friends, and your community. GCA's certificates, bachelor's, and master's online programs can accelerate your critical thinking abilities, helping solve complex business challenges with innovative technology solutions. Learn your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit DCA.edu.
So your politicians talk a good game. Rasha delivers. For the community I represent and every community, Rasha never stops fighting for people left behind. I've seen him take on some of the most powerful people to hold them accountable, to lower our costs, to protect our rights. Right now, people are angry and they're scared. We've never needed someone like Rasha in the Senate more. No one fights harder. No one.
I'm ready to push the business.
Modern day California is the kind of small town Alfred Hitchcock might have loved. On the surface, a picture postcard seaside fishing. Peter Barker Laramie. So does a murder mystery. Maybe true. Fishing is Morro Bay's main industry. In the 70s and 80s, work was irregular at best. That suited Hugh Harlan just fine. He had pared his life down to the basics. You thought you should work for the sheer joy of working, if and when the spirit moved you.
There were a number of times that he would stop by our business. We'd be unloading fish, and we'd have been at it for quite a while, and he'd roll up his sleeves and pitch in. 6 or 7 to 10 hours later, when we're finally done, he wouldn't take the money for his help. He wasn't just a weirdo. He might have been weird at times, but he wasn't a weirdo.
Hugh Harlan's high-minded notions about work and money were all well and good, but he hit a roadblock when it came to his wife, Diane. Diane Harlan was generous to a fault. She squandered what little money Hugh gave her on beggars, on her friends, and on her dogs.
We're going down to the docks.
Yeah, give me some money, Hugh.
It led to more than one bitter argument.
Groceries.
What'd you do with the money I gave you yesterday?
I spent it, okay?
They weren't getting along very well, and Diane would do bizarre things, including opening a can of dog food and serving it to Hugh for dinner.
Lisa, Jimmy, the dogs. I can't support the entire county.
You want dinner or not? It's as simple as that, okay?
Don't walk away.
Don't you touch me.
Rumor had it that Diane not only served dog food in the can, but that once she even baked it into a casserole for her unsuspecting husband. It seemed Diane cared more for her dogs than she did for Hugh. In fact, around Morro Bay, Diane was known as the dog. October 13th, 1982. A badly decomposed body of a woman was found just off the beach at Morro Bay. A jade bracelet and a silver bracelet lay nearby. Police could not identify the woman, but they could identify the murder weapon. The victim had been strangled with a dog leash.
The investigators immediately put out a news media release with a description asking for public's assistance identifying this individual. Later in the evening, the department was contacted by Hugh Harlan.
Do you recognize this?
Hugh Harlan was shown several pieces of jewelry, and he identified that jewelry as belonging to his wife, Diane.
Yeah, that silver one was hers. That was hers for sure, yeah.
When was the last time you saw Diane, Hugh? Hugh Harlan told police that Diane had been away from home for 12 days. He said he wasn't worried until he heard about the body.
Came home about 7 o'clock. She went home.
Why'd you wait almost 2 weeks to report her missing?
Didn't seem unusual to me for her not to come home. She'd done a location.
She'd done this before?
Every now and then, yeah.
You remember what time the dogs came home that night?
Yeah, it was about 11:30.
Can you remember if they were wearing their leashes tonight?
Yeah, they had their leash on that night.
What's this, Hugh?
Hello, what is it?
Found this tied around Diane's neck. Looks like a dog leash, doesn't it?
That's right. Dogs came home, they didn't have their leashes.
Well, which way is it, Hugh? Did they come home with their leashes or without their leashes?
When Hugh Harlan changed the story, the investigators began to look more closely at him as a possible suspect.
Can I go now?
I asked him, so you know, a lot of people suspect you. Yeah, did you kill her? You know, I know she's bizarre, and I know she tried to push your buttons. Did you do it? And I knew when he answered that question, he was telling the truth. He didn't do it. He said he didn't do it.
Diane Harlan was 43 years old when she was murdered. No charges against Hugh or anyone else were ever filed. To this day, the case remains unsolved. 4 years passed. Hugh Harlan's life went on much as it had before Diane's death, until November 1st, 1986. That day, Hugh went to a friend's house to borrow some tools for a 2-day construction job up the road in Sand City.
You probably need these hand tools. Yeah, throw them up in there. We'll get the gate for you. Yeah.
Hugh Harlan set off for Sand City, 27 miles north of Morro Bay, before dark.
You're all set, Huey. What it is, bro? What it is. Have a good one.
But soon the mystery would take yet another twist, near the town of Kingdom.
The next thing we knew, I got a call from a mutual friend in Cambria. Like
check out Hugh's abandoned truck.
I got curious as to what was going on. I took a look inside. I saw huge glasses on the dash. I saw a couple of tins on the dash. One was tobacco and one was some ragweed pot that he smoked quite regularly. All of these things weren't really adding up to me since 3 days or so had transpired.
All right, y'all. Well, no one's talking to me. I'm gonna get going, but I'll be back later.
The mystery did not end there. Before Steve and Eddie left to look for Hugh, Steve walked over to make a pit stop at the edge of the woods.
Hey, Eddie,